In 1942, the U.S. government took control of several thousand acres of land just north of Point Pleasant, West Virginia. The purpose was to build a secret facility capable of creating and storing TNT that could be used during World War II. For the next 3 years, the facility cranked out massive amounts of TNT, shipping it out or storing it in one of the numerous concrete igloo structures that dotted the area. In 1945, the facility was shut down and eventually abandoned, but it was here that an enigmatic flying creature with glowing red eyes made its home years later. On the evening of November 15, 1966, Linda and Roger Scarberry were out driving with another couple, Mary and Steve Mallett. As they drove, they decided to take a detour that took them past the abandoned TNT factory. As they neared the gate of the old factory, they noticed 2 red lights up ahead. When Roger stopped the car, the couples were horrified to find that the red lights appeared to be 2 glowing red eyes. What's more, those eyes belonged to a creature standing more than 7 feet tall with giant wings folded behind it.
We couldn't believe what we really saw. And this thing was standing there, but it had a body just like a man. You could see the muscles in its legs. We sit there for a minute and looked at each other, and then we took off.
That was all Roger needed to see before he hit the gas pedal and sped off. In response, the creature calmly unfolded its wings and flew toward the car. Incredibly, even though Roger raced along at speeds close to 100 miles per hour, the red-eyed creature was able to keep up with them without much effort.
We didn't really talk about it or anything, but we saw it all the way down the road into town. It followed us.
Upon reaching Point Pleasant, the 2 couples ran from their car to the Mason County Courthouse and alerted Deputy Millard Halstead of their terrifying encounter. Halstead couldn't be sure exactly what the 2 couples had seen, but whatever it was, it had clearly frightened them.
Those eyes. That's all she'd ever say was those eyes.
In an attempt to calm them down, Halstead agreed to accompany them to the TNT factory. As his patrol car neared the entrance, the police radio suddenly emitted a strange whining noise. Other than that, despite a thorough search of the area, nothing out of the ordinary was found.
When they got home, she got in the house, she collapsed. Of course, they had to call a doctor and have him come out, give her something. I mean, she was hysterical. That's all there was to it.
Needless to say, once word got around Point Pleasant that a giant winged creature with glowing red eyes was roaming around the area, everyone had to see it for themselves. The creature didn't disappoint. Dubbed Mothman by the local press, the creature was spotted flying overhead, hiding, and even lurking on front porches. In fact, in the last few weeks of November, dozens of witnesses encountered the winged beast.
The head looked like a man, and it had fiery red eyes, half man, half monster, I guess you'd call it.
Never seen anything like it. I hope I never do again. It was just unbelievable.
But Mothman wasn't the only game in town. It seems that around the same time that he showed up, local residents started noticing strange lights in the evening sky, some of which hovered silently over the abandoned TNT factory. Of course, this led some to believe that Mothman and the UFOs were somehow connected. One such person was Mary Heyer of the Athens Messenger, who had been reporting on the strange activities in Point Pleasant since they started. Perhaps that's why she became the first target. One day, while Mary Heyer was at work, several strange men visited her office and began asking questions about the lights in the sky. Normally, she didn't mind talking to people about the UFO sightings and Mothman. But there was something peculiar about these guys. For instance, they all dressed exactly the same. Black suits, black ties, black hats, and dark sunglasses. They also spoke in a strange monotone and seemed confused by ordinary objects, such as ballpoint pens. As the men left, Heyer wondered whether they had been from another planet. Either way, she had an up-close and personal encounter with the legendary Men in Black. Mary Heyer was not the only person to have a run-in with the Men in Black. As the summer of 1967 rolled around, dozens of people were interrogated by them. In most cases, the men showed up unannounced at the homes of people who had recently witnessed a Mothman or UFO sighting. For the most part, the men simply wanted to know what the witnesses had seen. But sometimes the men went to great lengths to convince the witnesses that they were mistaken and had not seen anything out of the ordinary. Other times, the men threatened witnesses. Each time the Men in Black left a witness's house, they drove away in a black, unmarked sedan. Despite numerous attempts to determine who these men were and where they came from, their identity remained a secret. And all the while, the Mothman sightings continued throughout Point Pleasant and the surrounding area. Erected in 1928, the Silver Bridge was a gorgeous chain suspension bridge that spanned the Ohio River, connecting Point Pleasant with Ohio. On December 15, 1967, the bridge was busy with holiday shoppers bustling back and forth between West Virginia and Ohio. As the day wore on, more and more cars started filling the bridge until shortly before 5 o'clock p.m., when traffic on the bridge came to a standstill. For several minutes, none of the cars budged. Suddenly, there was a loud popping noise, and then the unthinkable happened. The Silver Bridge collapsed, sending dozens of cars and their passengers into the freezing water below.
People were screaming. You could hear them hollering for help.
Over the next few days, local authorities and residents searched the river hoping to find survivors, but in the end, 46 people lost their lives in the bridge collapse. A thorough investigation determined that a manufacturing flaw in one of the bridge's supporting bars caused the collapse. But there are others who claim that in the days and weeks leading up to the collapse, they saw Mothman and even the men in black around, on, and even under the bridge. Further witnesses state that while most of Point Pleasant was watching the Silver Bridge collapse, bright lights and strange objects were flying out of the area and disappearing into the winter sky. Perhaps that had nothing to do with the collapse of the Silver Bridge, but the Mothman has not been seen since. Or has he? There are reports that the Mothman is still alive and well and has moved on to other areas of the United States. There are even those who claim that he was spotted flying near the Twin Towers on September 11, 2001, leading to speculation that Mothman is a portent of doom and only appears when disasters are imminent. Some believe Mothman was a visitor from another planet who returned home shortly after the Silver Bridge fell. Still others think the creature was the result of the toxic chemicals eventually discovered in the area near the TNT factory. And then there are skeptics who say that the initial sighting was nothing more than a giant sand crane, and that mass hysteria took care of the rest. Whichever theory you choose to believe, the Mothman Lives website compiles all sightings of the creature from the 1960s to the present.